Mr. Rajaraman, thank you once again for joining in this podcast, Breaking Barriers. And it's always a pleasure to have you. And it's going to be an interesting conversation.
The pleasure is mine, Prarthana, as always. Thank you for what you're doing for sport. Keep doing the good work.
Much for your kind words. And it is always encouraging to hear such words from a veteran like you. So let's concentrate. And this time in this episode, we discuss a lot about the games ended, and obviously you have been following these games very closely. So, if I may ask you, what were the reflections of the games that recently concluded?
Well, we can look at it as a glass half empty or half full. Uh, we've got 12 medals. India's picked up 12 medals, five from archery, all came from compound archers. Then there were five medals from the track and field athletes, and there was
Hmm.
one medal each in badminton and which is the other sport where they picked up a medal. I think it was table tennis. No, not table tennis. There were 12 medals in all for India. I'm very sorry. I forget what the 12th medal, where the 12th medal came. Oh, it came from tennis, Vaishnavi Adkar, from women's singles. So there were four sports which picked up medals, 12 medals, and it seemed reasonable that India finished 20th on the table, especially with no shooting. Last time with shooting around with more than a dozen medals from the shooters, India finished as seventh. But now
Yes,
it slipped to 20th because there was no shooting and there were only 12 medals. Now that's the half full part. Let's look at the half empty, and we wonder why we send teams for basketball and volleyball and beach volleyball and 3-on-3 basketball when all those teams finished last or last but one or two. So if there were 16 teams competing, India finished 16th. And if there were
right,
24 teams competing, India finished 23rd or 24th. I think India needs to introspect. Should we be handing out freebies to athletes? I love our athletes. I must say this first and foremost.
absolutely.
This is not against them. But if the government of India has got a rule saying that for Asian Games, you need to have the eighth place time of the last Asian Games, or you should be ranked eighth in Asia, I, I cannot imagine why we don't have similar stringent standards for the World University Games. We sent a contingent of more than 300 athletes. Universities were falling over one another to celebrate the fact that they were sending 40 people and 30 people as part of the team. I think we have to introspect and look at what more we can do to ensure that we send the right people to this multidiscipline game. This is no less than a Commonwealth Games or an Asian Games or an Olympic game. As far as universities are concerned, this is the pinnacle, and we have to
Right.
ensure that we send only the right people. In Taekwondo, Judo, and fencing, the story is no different. Indians came back empty handed. Quite disappointing that we are sending people who lose in 30 seconds and 45 seconds. Nobody knows what kind of selection was held. So sometimes it is actually much more than half empty. India needs to introspect big time.
Right. Like you mentioned, it's half empty and half full. And is there a need then athletes from, like you said, we really love our athletes. We have a lot of respect for our athletes because we know these Olympic sports athletes have, different stories to tell. They do not come from great backgrounds and, with some great infrastructure or coaches with them. So we understand their sentiment. We understand their passion for for the sport, for the particular disciplines. And now, when you say that, if there is a team of 24 teams, India finishes 23rd or 24th, or if it is 16, we finish at 16. Is there a need to send such kind of, to send athletes in such kind of disciplines where you know that you will not be able to, sustain for more than 30 seconds or 40 seconds, and like in judo and taekwondo that you mentioned?
I think it's very important for us to reflect deeply. The Association of Indian Universities, which is the apex body for university sport in this country, must introspect very, very seriously. Should it be sending such large contingents and coming back with empty hands? Many of them have come back with empty hands. Uh, I think we sent teams in 14 disciplines. Only four of them picked up medals. You look at swimming, I think there were 46 swimmers in all, 24 men and 22 women. only two of them made it to the semifinals. They progressed from the first round to the semifinals. Two of them in three events. Srihari and Natraj in three events, and there was Rohit Benedicton who got through the 50-meter butterfly. So you can't send such a large contingent and see that only two of them are making it to the semifinals. There has to be pride in performance. Um, Pratna, we believe that from 1996, when Leander Pace won that bronze medal in Atlanta, Indians have stopped participating. They've started competing. There's a
Hmm.
great belief that Indians go out to win medals. But why should university sport be very different to everything else in India? Primarily because university sport does not pay attention through the year. It's only a getting together athletes, many of them who do not attend classes. So we call them student athletes, but to my mind, they are more athlete students, uh, conveniently picked up for the duration of the games. Maybe they're doing masters courses. They've been given seats in some universities. We need to wonder, what are we doing right or what are we doing wrong with sport? How can we get better with university sport? There was a time, I think I was in Paris, and some newspapers here in India had a huge advertisement about one university sending 26 athletes to the Olympic Games. Or was it 21? I forget.
Okay.
We thought about Stanford University and we said, oh, they have got so many medals. If Stanford University were a country, it would have finished fourth in the Olympic Games medal table, is what some people were saying. I don't know the right numbers, but Stanford had a number of athletes competing in the Olympic Games for different countries. Now, this Indian university had a huge ad publishing that a number of their athletes were part of the Olympic team. Where are those athletes? Why did they not compete in the university games? I think we need to reflect very seriously, and maybe the time has come for the government to take over the running of university sport in this country. I know for a fact that the government has been very serious about promoting sport in school and in college. Uh, but if this is the state of affairs, then you need a whole new organization that's going to run the university sport in the country. We have to get serious. We cannot simply say that All India University Sport Board and its affiliates conduct more than 200 competition in a year. And I think we have to be very serious about how we promote sport, because if university sport is going to contribute to Indian sports journey of excellence, then India can prosper. But at the moment, we have seen a number of athletes who have excelled for India being drawn in to the university teams. And I think that's not the best way forward for India.
When you were talking, I just remember Neeraj Chopra making a statement a couple of months back saying that these schools, college, and university games should be taken very seriously, because if we want Olympians, if we want world champions, and if we want our athletes to do well, it has to start from school, first of all, and then to college, then to university. Also, I was speaking to a lot of ex players, and they were of the opinion that, Ratna, when we were 18, we already got a job. So what is the point, or where is the point of playing for university? They said, because they are already employed either with the Reserve Bank of India or the railways or the audit and general. So they were of the opinion that what's the point of playing? So is this the real picture of university games in India then?
No, it is very relevant. I think we cannot ignore university sport. We have to find ways in which to invigorate it and make it better. Let me take you back to the 70s and even before that to the 60s. When I was growing up as a youngster, I knew for a fact that inter-university sport was a stepping stone to the Indian team. If you made it to the combined universities team, you very nearly are there, and the next step was the Indian team. Now,
Right.
unfortunately, over the years, university sports has lost relevance, and
Hmm.
therefore the national sports federations have had to introduce age group sport, because school sport has let down India, university sport has let down India. All national federations had to introduce their own age group sport. Now, if you're an 18-year-old and uh, you have a scholarship with one of those petroleum companies, you're not inclined to continue education. You want to pursue
Right.
sport, you want to excel in sport. Therefore, you're not paying as much attention to your education. I think this is wrong. If we can somehow, all of us get together, put the best brains, and in a room, do a nice brainstorming session, and then come up with solutions so that university sport does not wither away even further. I think it's very important for us to realize that it can be a very, very critical component of the
Right.
assembly line of India's journey to excellence. If you have educated athletes, your sport will get better. I think it's we have lost sight of the fact that education helps athletes become better. We have encouraged them to find their jobs at 18 years of age and 19 years of age. So they're not paying attention to their education. So they're losing out in life. Now, when they step out of the sports career, either at the end of their active playing days, or because of an injury, or because of some other accident, they are not ready to face the world. They're not ready to have an alternate life. It's very important that athletes manage both education and sport, and we excel. But for that,
And that's when they go into depression, like you said, because they haven't seen the world. They haven't been able to kind of depression comes in, and the mental well-being of an athlete is questioned then because you get a lot of pressure from these, offices where you are employed that you have to be a 365-day employee then.
oh, that's a whole different story altogether. If we get into the story of depression of athletes who've not educated themselves and are not ready for an alternate career, it's a whole different story. I think we will park it for the moment and focus on how university sport can get better. You look at the coaches in universities and in colleges; they're not qualified enough. I know, for example, couple of very, very good coaches were engaged to go with the Indian team to Germany, especially in archery. It's very important that someone like a Rajat Banerjee went as coach of the Indian side. I did see him there, but he can't be just showing up during the competition. It's got to be a year-long process. Now, let me take you to the US. The system there is that the university coach has got much more respect than perhaps the national coach has got. That's because there is a system there, and people have left universities to go with the coach, join another university. That's the kind of importance they give the coaches there. I cannot remember a single university engaging top-notch coaches to get their athletes to be better. Now they all want athletes, they all want ready-made products to show up for their universities and to compete for them both in the inter-university competition in India and perhaps represent India in the World University Game. But unless you are investing in their development, please don't take any credit for their growth. You look at someone like Seema, who won the 5,000-meter athletics medal, silver medal she won. She's been training in the US for the longest time with the rest of the middle and long distance team. So they have been training in the US. Now she comes and represents the Indian universities and wins a silver medal. Now, unfortunately for her, the officials did not enter her in the 10,000 meter. Maybe we lost a medal there. But
Hmm.
she is not a product of the university system. She might be a student in some university, she might be registered somewhere, but she's been training overseas for the longest time. For a year and a half, she's been training outside India. Now, have universities contributed to that kind of growth of an athlete? No, not really. Uh, the the boys and girls who won archery, the boys and girls who won in athletic, I don't think they can claim any credit. Look at Vaishnavi Atkar who won the women's singles bronze medal in tennis. She played her heart out. She was brilliant throughout the tournament. What is the university's contribution to her growth? I don't think there is any. She has played the ITF tournament, the WTA tournaments on her own. She's made a name for herself. And then when she sees an opportunity, she does come and play for India universities. They should stop claiming. They should start contributing to the growth of Indian sport. This is where the Association of Indian Universities Sports Board and the Sports Committee have to take responsibility. But more than that, I think the government of India should take note of what has happened
Checking
with
now.
in
Hmm.
Germany, and then maybe come up with a new institution that runs university sport in this country.
I want to take you back to the Khelo India University Games, which took place last year in Guwahati. And I happened to be in one of the seminars that was organized by the sports department of government of Assam here. And I was having a conversation with a lot of young students of the Guwahati University and other universities. They came up and said that, ma'am, do you know that whenever we want to go and play some competitions at the university level, what the authorities come up is that we do not have fund for that. Our fund will be transferred immediately to some cultural groups who will be performing in any other part of the country, whereas the athletes are being denied. And they say, please don't take our names because the authorities might not really enjoy what we said. And also, there was another very important issue which I happened to discuss with the sports commissioner then, Mr. Jamil Hilali, is that they do not have infrastructure. Forget about infrastructure. They do not have a proper playground where these athletes who've taken admission as athletes, they do not have place to you know uh, train or to practice anything. So, what can we expect from these people who are really, really, striving to be there in university games, in all India level or in the national or in the world level? So, this is a real picture, Mr. Rajaraman. This is the sad story of the university students.
Well, you've raised many important points here, Pratna. Let me try and remember them and address them one by one to the best of my knowledge. The Khelo India University Games, for example. I have seen a couple of these university games, and unfortunately or fortunately, let's take boxing and wrestling, for example. Those finalists would probably not cross the quarterfinal stage of Haryana State Championship, and that's saying a lot. Okay, maybe I'm being the extreme, but I don't mind it. There is no quality there. Now, what is the selection criteria for Khelo India University game? You have to be, if you're in a team competition, you have to be in top 8 of the All India Universities competition, or you have to be in the top 16 of the All India Universities competition. Now, what kind of competition is available at the university stage? Because most of the junior athletes, the ones who are really talented,
Yes,
are away from the education system. Their focus is primarily the Asian Games and the Olympic Games. Therefore, they're training very hard in national camps. Now, they're not available for these universities. So the
yes,
standard of the Khelo India University game, to my mind, is pretty average. Now, this is where Government of India needs to think a little bit on how to galvanize the Khelo India University game. It's a great concept. It's an additional competition for universities athletes. But if you're not going to have quality, why waste so much money in that? That's the first thing. Secondly, you talked about money and funding of these athletes for training. Uh, Even sadder, you're talking about them not having funds to travel within India. Even sadder is the fact that the host university, which the nodal university, in some cases, asked for 2.5 lakh rupees from each of the athletes so that they could travel to Germany. Now, why should an athlete pay for their travel to represent the country? The universities did pay. In some cases, the universities paid,
yes.
but
Hmm.
in cases where the university did not have the kind of money, it was left to the athlete. And I know some deserving athletes were left behind in India because they were not able to raise 2.5 lakh rupees. So universities need to have a sports budget. They need to plan better. They need to want to be able to contribute to the Indian sporting ethos. Unfortunately, even though the Association of Indian Universities probably predates the Indian Olympic Association, it predates most other national federations, but it has lost its way somehow. It has become a white elephant of sorts. It has not been contributing to either the development of Indian sport or the development of university sport. So, if it is money matters, I think they should ask the central government for assistance. The center has been very, very generous in supporting sport in the
Yes,
last 10, 15 years.
there's no doubt about it.
It started with the Commonwealth Games in 2010. We have understood that for training, you need money and you need lots of investment for athletes to get better. So over the last 15, 20 years, India has understood that you need to invest in sport. But if universities are not going to invest in sport, then I don't think we should really fancy great results coming up from these competitions like the World University Games. Uh, it is good that uh, India's performance, especially some of the official lapses in Germany, have drawn attention of the fans. Otherwise, if it got a couple of more medals, we would have sat back happy and celebrated them all. But it's very, very disappointing what has happened. You can't expect students to pay money out of their pocket to go and compete for India in the World University Games.
And see, the games were mired in a lot of controversy with a lot of shuttlers coming up and saying that if we speak about against them, our careers will be finished. And I don't want to name the shuttlers, but another shuttler, she put up something on a social media platform, and then she also said that we had to travel without our coaches. Of course, like you said, the sorry state of affairs, and you know, uh, there were no person responsible taking responsibility. Their names were not registered. Isn't that very shocking? Like you said in the very beginning, that India sent out a large number of athletes, but what about the responsibilities of the administration?
Some years ago, Pratna, there was an Indian schools team that went to Australia, and one of the girls from the hockey team went to swim in the ocean and got drowned there. And that caused the government of India to take note. There was so much controversy. There was such a storm that government of India took note of the School Games Federation of India and is driving it to get its act together. I think Berlin, the German World University Games competition this year will be that milestone that will help Government of India take university sport a bit more seriously and investigate and then find solutions. I think the time is at hand for all of us, not just the government, Pratna. I think we need to discuss this more. It needs to be out in not just in social media but in mainstream media. Quite disappointing that there was not enough coverage for how the Indian athletes were faring there. There
Yes.
were national records for Sriya Raj and Rohinton Benedict Rohinton. Unfortunately for them, there was not much coverage in India. Now you don't fly under the radar and become superstars. You need to celebrate them. You need to be able to find those
We
medals.
need to celebrate their small achievements to make them another, superstar for the country. We need to write about them. We need to talk about them in mainstream media.
No, I think as students of the game, as subscribers to newspapers and to television channels, uh, I think fans need to start asking for more coverage of Indian sport, for greater accountability from the media persons, including myself. I think it's very important that we understand our roles and we play it to a perfection. For those 2 weeks, Pratna, I was following the World University website. They also had FISU had a live streaming for many of the finals. I followed it and I wrote every day. I can't think of very many of my senior colleagues or even my junior colleagues having spent as much time trying to understand what was happening out there in Germany. Of course, I would have loved to be there to watch the performances and to write about it. But even the results are enough. We need to celebrate the medalists. We need to investigate what went wrong with other events. Why would we send teams in taekwondo, fencing, and judo, in combat sport, in team sport, where our performance is quite abysmal? The If you are a serious sports country, you will even wonder why the recurve archers did not pick up a medal. You will wonder why athletics finished with only 5 medals and
Mm.
did not look good for more. There was Praveen Chitravel, who has competed in the world athletics competition, who's an Asian Games medalist. There were other athletes who qualified, who went, but did not. Praveen, of course, picked up a medal, but there were others just as good who did not land medals. And unfortunately for India, there were only 5 athletics medals and 5 medals in archery. There need to be questions, and I think we're not doing it because we want to spite the Association of Indian Universities.
right.
But if they don't understand that they have a very important role to play in Indian sport, then I don't think India should dream of becoming a world superpower.
Absolutely. And the Joint Secretary has been suspended.
No,
And the
it's a
Joint Secretary
it's
is
a no, it's a very
enough,
token.
and the kind of harassment and the mental harassment that the shuttlers, the other players have gone through. Do you think this much is enough now?
It's a very token action, Pratna. Suspending one person for the lapses. So I think there needs to be investigation in how selection trials were held. Who were the selectors? What was the selection criteria? Let me tell you, with national federation, the government of India insists that they publish their selection criteria months in advance. I know many federations which are finalizing the qualifying standards for the Asian Games to be held next year. Why is there no such criteria? You look at the AIU website, the latest information that you get on meetings that AIU has is from 2018, 7 years ago. The latest information of the calendar is from last year. Not a single result is available. If you want to research university sport, you don't know where to go. And so it's a huge mess. I know for a fact that swimming trials were held in a university in Bangalore, and unfortunately, those results are just not available anywhere. I know a couple of athletes who complained that while they finished in the podium, somebody else who did not finish in the podium in the trials was selected and sent to represent India in Berlin. Now, you don't want complaints like this. You want my heart beats for athletes, and if you cannot be transparent about selection, then there is something really fishy.
Happening in school levels. CBSE has their own kind of cluster athletics, badminton championships, and this happens in a lot of school level. Somebody is selected and somebody else is going, and these are the kind of things that stuff which is very very sad, which is very surprising because we need to think about we need to think about has to think that we are a superpower of talents, and in the days to come we have Commonwealth Games, or we might have Olympics in the days to come very soon in India. What are the conditions? This is the sad, state of affairs that is right in the school level, college level, in universities level, and university level.
To my mind, Pratna, this is a great opportunity for India to revisit university sport and get its primacy back. Like I told you, there was a time where university sport was quite the
Yeah,
strongest of competitions in the country.
right.
Unfortunately, today it is not. How can we get it better? I think the FISU World University Games 2025 gives us the opportunity to examine what can we do better to ensure that we don't come back with such stories. There were horror stories with the badminton team where only 6 members were entered when you could have entered 12 names. Some of
Yes,
them did not get medal. Now we are consoling ourselves saying, oh, even those boys and girls got medals. So what is the big deal about it? But climbing the podium, seeing the flag flutter, I think is very important for everyone, each one of them. Now, this is a great opportunity for India to look at how we can get better with university sport. If we should stop comparing ourselves with US and China and Japan and Korea and the rest of the advanced world. If you cannot get this right, then very likely you won't get anything right.
certainly. And on that note, Mr. Rajaraman, thank you so much for your in-depth analysis. And someday we hope that these kind of anomalies, responsible stuff doesn't happen to the athletes during the games because they're obviously under tremendous pressure to compete with the best in the business, the US, competitors, China, Japan, Korea. So let's hope that these kind of, needs to come, and let's take the university games in India very, very seriously. And also, as journalists, it's also our responsibility to spread these good stories, the struggling stories of the athletes they go through earlier, and which have seen, Olympic sports athletes, life has never been easy for them. Starting from finance, starting from infrastructure, all kind of support the ecosystem. So it's high time we university sport very seriously.
Thank you very much, Pratna, for raising a very important subject. Uh, it is not very fancy. university sport. There is not much viewership or readership for this, but to yet to take it up and to discuss it with me and to give me the chance to share my thoughts with you, I'm truly grateful for what you're doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajaraman. Thank you so much for your pleasure.